All right, let's get this started then. Watched the Hearts game last night up at Greg's flat with him and my brother. Really impressed with Hearts. I thought they were great. I think one thing that is really simple and something that gets overlooked in a day and age. It's probably always been overlooked, but certainly in a day and age where data is driven and there's a lot of people on these things like talking and giving their opinions, is you're at home at first game of the season, start quickly. And I think it's like, well, fucking obviously that's obvious, but I've seen Hearts many a time before when I've been at Tynecastle and I've watched them particularly against Rangers and they haven't started quickly, and I know that's a different game and it's not the opening game of the season, but I'm just using that as an example for Hearts. Just start quickly, and they kept the intensity up and they got the goal. They were fully deserved of that. Shanklin obviously gets the screamer that unfortunately gets called offside, which was a real shame. But they deserve to be 2 up going into the break, absolutely no question about it. And look, Aberdeen actually played well and they had their spell, I think, particularly in the second half. So it wasn't like Aberdeen were poor either. I didn't think. I just thought Hearts really got the moment spot on. McInnes got the moment spot on. How he played his team. He changed the shape during the game when they were a bit under pressure to go a bit more 4-4-2. And again, something that I think managers kind of get lost on these days is, this is our style, this is our style, this is how we play. It's a 4-4-3-3 shape, and it's all dependent on the game and the moment. And when you see something, you notice it as a manager on the side. It's not to say that your principles change, but you notice something and you try and combat that against the other team that's ultimately going to get you the 3 points, which is what McInnes done. So really good first kind of performance from him, I thought, and performance in Hearts. I thought the left back Milne was absolutely fantastic. He looks like he could be a good signing. It's obviously, I know they've played more than one game. I've not watched them, but we're one league game in. So, making those statements are early shouts, but he looks like a player. Braga up top looks like he's decent. Shanklin, we know, is going to get you goals. I think one area of the park that looked a wee bit randomly dodgy last night from Hearts was the keeper. I thought every time the ball got played back to him, even when there was zero pressure on him whatsoever from Aberdeen, he just kind of kicked it, and there was a few times he just kicked it straight out the pitch, and it was just a bit bizarre. Like, I understand not being great with your feet, and not all keepers are, especially if they've come through kind of before the time of how they were being trained like that and having to get involved in the drills and play with their feet. But yeah, just like absolutely zero pressure just to kick out at the park was just a little bit bizarre for me. But huge for Hearts. That rounds up the Scottish League weekend, which was good to get into. I'm gonna do a lot more videos on the Scottish League this season and stay a lot more in tune with it. So I'm looking forward to dive into it. And I think one of the reasons really is on Hearts is the whole Tony Bloom thing. And I think a lot of Scottish fans, think that stuff's a bit stupid and think it gets blown out of proportion, and I'm kind of on the side of that. Like, it's a piece of the puzzle. And if you've watched my podcast I did with Kieran Hennigan, who runs Improving Scottish Football, I was constantly saying that yeah, it's like good to have these data guys come in and it's exciting, and the likes of Tony Bloom looks like he knows what he's doing. He's made it work over in Brighton. He's made it work over in Belgium. So yeah, it is exciting to see. And I know my own club, Liverpool, are heavy on data, and it's really benefited us to get to the point where we're Premier League champions and acting like we're acting. So all for it, but there still has to be the managing aspect as well, which I just said about McInnes, which looked really good. But it's exciting for Tony Bloom. He's being very bold. He's saying there's not going to be no longer a 2-horse race in Scotland for the league title. You can count on that. And I watched an interview where he said that multiple times and he wasn't shying away from it. So let's see. You've got to give it 2 or 3 years. There's going to be a lot of pain they're going to have to go through as well at times, and you're going to lose some of your best players. And Hearts fans need to accept the model is that if someone comes in for somebody that you've bought on a cheap and might be doing really well and might be a top player, but everybody's got a price, and especially if it's for a huge bit of profit, and it's a business game, and that's exactly how it works. So coming from a Liverpool perspective, where we've had to do that with the kind of FSG team and their model, just expect that, Hearts fans. You're going to sell guys sometimes. You're wondering why. Try and just trust the process and trust what they're trying to do, and they're not always going to get it right, and it might take you a step back here or there, but they'll have it more finely tuned. They've just got to obviously learn the Scottish market, the Scottish game, how it works with Celtic and Rangers. But it's exciting. It is exciting. I know Hibs and Aberdeen have got kind of new owners in there as well. So it's as always, it's Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen between the three. Everyone's kind of looking to see if anyone can break the old firm, as we always know. I don't think it'll happen this season, even though I say Rangers are going to, I think, struggle under Russell Martin. I still think they'll be second, but if someone can be in the mix with 10 games to go, it's kind of like a league title race, and you can be in and around Rangers, then you never know, pressure might ramp up and things might happen. So all in all, yeah, really enjoyed watching that Hearts Aberdeen game last night. It was really good. Next little piece I wanted to touch on is just the kind of whole Sesko transfer to Newcastle, because it seems to just have a domino effect on if Alexander Isak's going to go to Liverpool, and obviously if he goes to United, that's a good signing for United by all accounts, and that's a big number 9 in. So it just has a huge domino effect, and I think Newcastle have offered 90 million, so they've gone in big for it. To me, that says if they get him, then Isak will leave. And yeah, if you're Sesko, you're probably looking at Newcastle right now thinking, yeah, they're probably in the better position and probably the better prospect potentially for you in terms of recent years. Again, saying that they've won one trophy, United have won a few, but it was a big trophy. They feel like they're making steps. However, Man United is, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, still Man United. And if that can plant a doubt of seed in your head about, but if it does click there, it unfortunately, Newcastle, it will be bigger than Newcastle, because United do have that brand, that name, that level. So there's just always that little bit about you, and they can probably offer more money wage-wise, I would imagine. So it'll just be interesting to see where he goes. If I'm him, I don't know. That's a tough decision to make. I do kind of like what Amorim's doing. I think the vibes do feel good. But again, I'm saying the word vibes. I sound like Daniel Sturridge. It's like, that's one little aspect of it. Let's actually see what happens on the pitch. So let's see where Sesko decides to go. But it does obviously create like the kind of knock-on effect for Isak going to Liverpool. And, I've been watching TalkSport all morning, and it's been enjoyable actually, Simon Jordan, on that show, the 10 a.m. show, until 1 o'clock. I like listening to his points of view. I don't always agree with them. Some people won't like him, but it's an interesting show. But one of the headlines going along the bottom was Liverpool unleash 270 million signings against Bilbao in a friendly. And, this is the big thing I've been saying about Liverpool this season, is as much of the signings they are making are incredible and unbelievable, and the way they're moving is massive, there will be a lot of pressure. And if you go and sign Isak, that adds an extra 130, 150 onto that number, and the press and the media and everyone's going to be on you like that. And it's a new level to kind of handle for Liverpool, and a different angle that people are coming at you at, and a different crown to wear, and a different way to walk, and a different way to talk. It makes me a little bit worried, to be honest, because we haven't ever been in this situation. As much as I'm excited, there is still that piece of saying, like, we haven't gone back-to-back champions, we haven't moved like this money-wise and all the spending, so it makes me a little nervous. But let's see, they're going to have to deal with that a little bit. Just finally, I was kind of like looking in to see like the quotes from the Daniel Levy interview with Gary Neville, and I watched it yesterday, and I was sitting down, like, writing down these quotes and making it almost like a professional type show. And I've always said to you guys, that's not what this really is. I just kind of want to go, I want to come with stats, and I want to come with facts, and I want to come with feel. But it was an intriguing interview. It was cool. It was cool to see a chairman sit down and talk like that. And again, like I've been saying on Twitter a little bit recently, I'm getting a bit better at putting things out on there. Just my thoughts is that, football's in a weird spot right now where the chairmen and the upper echelons of everything, the money and the way things are feeling, that is kind of like what feels like is leading football right now. And if I'm being honest, it feels shady. And of course it does feel shady. We know FIFA, we've seen things in the past, right? Juventus, and just how that's kind of, I think, always probably been somewhere there in football that we just don't know as much about. But now that the money's so huge in it, I think that's a part of it. I think that's reality of life. And if you live your life and you look at life in your own area of your line of work, some people are scam artists and some people are real, and some people care more about giving the service to the customer than necessarily the biggest price. And, there's just different walks of life. And I think we're seeing that in football right now. And, the whole City case that he kind of commented on, but it was a bit, it didn't lure me in, because they can't specifically talk about City and name it and do all that stuff, and it's Sky, and they need to be politically correct and everything. So yeah, it was interesting, but let's see how all that stuff plays out. I don't want to focus on that too much, but it is the driving force of the game, and it's where the game has gone, and it's where the game is. and what's kind of going to happen to it is going to have a big impact on the future of it. And as much as you know, should just want to, you know, watch your football players and love your football club and you know, enjoy a little bit of the signings and stuff like that, but just go to your games and live it that way of how it was. You know, there's a whole different way to live it now, and there is a different part of the game, and you do kind of have to accept that. And I've found getting into this, you do kind of have to just start to get a bit more knowledgeable on to kind of know exactly where the game's at and why specific things are happening. So that'll do it for this one. Look, subscribers, you'll get this one first as soon as the season starts. You know, that's when the exclusive videos will come. Don't worry, you will get exclusive content that no one else will get. This will go up on YouTube later on this afternoon as well, just a few hours after it goes up on the subscription service. So yeah, Fantasy Football League, if you watch all the way to the end, subscribe. I'm going to put a lot more content out about that between this week and next week with the league starting. £100 for the winner, and with a view to up it if the subscriptions grow over the course of the season. I want to give back to you guys. So it's Tuesday. The wind seemed to have somewhat died down after a potential, what was meant to be a storm yesterday. Don't know what the world's coming to, but yeah, Tuesday. Hope everyone's having a good one. Get into your routine, get mentally ready, and I'll see you on the next one of these videos, whenever it is. Peace.